The following presentation was recorded at the 2025 Southeast Linuxfest in Charlotte, North Carolina. It is licensed under a Creative Commons license. For more information on the Southeast Linuxfest, visit www.southeastlinuxfest.org. Come join us next June.
All right. Well, it's 5 o'clock. Welcome, everyone. This is a discussion about open source in church. How many people have had problems with equipment not working right in church? All right. So a few years ago, I ended up going to a new church, and they were running a system. Their existing system had a lot of problems. It was running a operating system, which I refuse to name right now. There was some proprietary software locked in the machine. The stream kept dropping frames. They were trying to, this was at the beginning of COVID, they were trying to set up a live stream for the services. They just had random lockups where in the middle of services, it would just reboot or lock up and reboot. And it's really nice in the middle of service while everybody's seeing all these screens with all these boot screens popping up. We had no way to distribute information. We wanted to send bulletins or other information to people. We had no way of distributing it. Then they also were taking the sermons from the service, and they were extracting that from there, and they were having to post it up on a site. And it was probably about a 2-hour process for a person every week, which is a lot of work. The video output was raw output because nobody had time to tweak it. They were just doing a pure video and not doing anything with it. Everything was tied into one machine, and that one machine kept dying. It was a complicated setup. It took a while to get things working. And I have a simple rule. If it's not simple, it's wrong. So we implemented a simple solution. Nextcloud, we needed a way of being able to get information back and forth because we didn't want everybody tied into the one machine. So we ended up using a Nextcloud server so we can synchronize files and all between it so we can do the setup at different points and have it all pulled together for us. For the bulletins themselves, being able to send links, because we were streaming to multiple services. So we ended up setting a QR code that gets put on there, and I'll show you in a moment or a little bit what that's going to look like. I changed the OS. We had a couple people that pushed for one version of OS. We tried that. It didn't work. We ended up settling on Fedora, and I ended up choosing Fedora because it was able to install all the packages natively in the repos. I didn't have to go to any third parties or anything else for that. We changed OBS because on the one version they tried of OBS, it was doing it as snaps. And if anybody works with snaps, I loathe the snaps. I found a plugin for OBS that made, because like I said, we needed to chop things up. I found a plugin for OBS that makes marking points during the services easy. And then for the bash script, I did some bash scripting to be able to parse the stream for the sermon extraction, so it became really a push button and follow a few prompts. So the first thing was bullet production. Like I said, we needed to have a way of sending out notices. Now, we were streaming to Vimeo, and Vimeo fed it to Facebook. It was feeding it to LinkedIn and several things. And there is no way to put links out without going to each site individually. And I'm not going to spend hours each week just to send links out. So the office manager generates a bulletin with all the information. They uploaded it to our website, which results in a URL that we have. We take that URL and we convert it using a tool called QueerCode that converts it into a QR code. We then generate that generated QR code is then saved because I'll get that thing on a Friday afternoon when they were done generating it. I'll generate it and I'll upload it to the Nextcloud server. That's it. That's all we have to do. Because in the rest of our production, that QR code is displayed at the right points, and whatever source they're at, they can scan that QR code, they pull up that bulletin, we can put links and anything else we want in there, so they have all their information in an easy-to-access form. So our streaming PC setup, this is the part where we actually are doing the meat of the video stream. Again, I'm using Fedora. OBS, which I don't know of many streamers that don't use OBS, but OBS works good. We set up some hotkeys on scenes. We've got multiple scenes that are used in there for different parts. We've got a welcome screen, which is just like the logo with the QR code. We have during the service, we have a video with QR code, which is the regular video, but the QR code's just in the bottom there, but you don't want to have that there the whole time because it does get distracting. We got the pure video, and I also have times when I just want a blank logo, so I have a blank logo screen. With OBS, you can actually set it up so there are hotkeys to switch it, because yes, you can just click on the screen and change it, but that's a pain. You want to make sure you get things right. There's a tool called a bookmark tool that as you're going through the stream and as you're recording, if you click the button to mark a start or an end, it writes it to a CSV file with a time marker for both the live stream and the recorded file saying the start and the end of it. Added a simple macro pad there. You can go with very high-end macro pads. I found a nice little cheap one that was like $5 with a few buttons on it, but it was able to program and easy the way to do it. After I got it, then I had to find the software because it had Windows-only software, and I hate Windows. So I found there's a tool there for actually programming it, and it made it real easy. We still live stream with Vimeo because that handles the distribution. There's not really too much you can do about that. There are some options about it, but again, the idea is keeping it simple. If I give it to Vimeo, Vimeo goes out to different people. People already knew how to watch it. I don't have to train anybody. I don't have to provide support for them. They just get the video. We also record locally because we've had times where the live stream has gone down or the internet goes down. So we record it locally. And the local recording is actually what we use to cut up for the live stream. So this very advanced system, I'm going to show you what it looks like. This is such an advanced system. That's it. As you can see, it's a simple laptop. And now, part of the reason it's set up on a laptop instead of a desktop is because when we first started doing the stream, we had to come into the building, set up every week, and then tear down when we were done. And I didn't want to bring in monitors and all this. Laptop's quick to set up, and this is it. We have the laptop. You can see the little button bar on the bottom there. You can see the remote that you're seeing there. We have basically it's a security camera that we're using for our stream, and that you can do pre-programmed steps on it, and so that there just points the camera around so we can go to the different places. And the biggest problem I have with the camera is I sometimes get into the service and I forget to follow with the camera, okay? Okay, I'm not perfect. This is the little macro pad that I'm talking about. It's nothing fancy. Spin knob, 6 buttons. You can get them where you can get 64 buttons and all the different ones. A lot of them apparently are based on that same chipset. And again, you can get the software to program it. Now, you can get them Bluetooth modules and a USB. I prefer the USB because anything on my live stream, I want it physically wired if I can. I do not trust wireless for production. I don't mind wireless for devices and other things, but not for your actual main flow. For sermon processing, well, like I said, I got a tool in OBS that takes in, it marks the different, you can mark, let me back up and see if it's, you can't see the labels on there. I have labels on that little keypad that actually say start and end. So when the pastor goes up and starts speaking, I hit the start button and it makes a mark. When I get to the end, I hit the end button when it's done. When it's all done, I've got a bash script that they run. The bash script simply reads that CSV file, it uses, and it cuts it up into the parts that it needs. It prompts you for things like the name of the person who's speaking. It prompts you for the verse, for what's going on, whatever the topic of the sermon is, and it puts these all in its tags in there. It uses FFmpeg to cut that file up based on those bookmarks into the point it needs, and then it also converts it to MP3 and it normalizes it because the live stream tends to always be low no matter what I do. It looks great on screen, but it comes out crummy. You can actually normalize it with a couple of commands from FFmpeg to figure out what the volume is and normalize it. After that, right now I have the file being uploaded manually. It comes up and it tells you, please upload this file. It opens up the browser to the page so they just can upload it. I did not fully automate that for the simple fact that they are changing from our website to a new website. And I didn't want to go through all the trouble of automating and then having to redo it again. I figure I give you the name, I tell you exactly what file, and you work from there. So make it as simple as possible. And then after that, because those tags that were just entered are put on there, When the website team processes it, the current website actually reads those tags and prompts them with all the stuff automatically. So they just simply say, yep, it's good, and post it in there. It makes it real simple for them. The biggest complaint I've had from the website team is when we forget to upload it. Now, this upload process is really complicated. Who can guess which button on here does the upload for the website? So we've got the OBS, and right next to it, that little upload arrow, I tell them, click the button and follow directions. You can do this. I can bring a person up and train them in no time flat. Like I said, the old system was we had to do this, you had to copy it, you had to upload it, you had to do this, you had to... That is too complicated. I'm not going to, I mean, it's not complicated for me or not complicated for an individual, but when you're changing people all the time, you don't want something that they have to work with, or, you know, they have to go through 2 hours of training to be able to do this. So we got a few things that we want to do to this. Again, I want to do the automatic publication for the website upload, and as soon as they find it finalized, there's all the wonderful shenanigans going on of who's doing what with the website. As soon as they finalize that, we will be able to go to automatic upload. OBS supports, as you can see, we've got multiple views in there. I want to see about putting more cameras in, maybe getting a larger button board so we have more views on there and define that. OBS is really nice where you can take and define, for any view that you have, you can assign a hotkey macro for it. And then with the button board, you say, when you press this button, do this hotkey, and that's how it integrates there. So OBS doesn't really know about the button board. All the button board is doing is just sending a hotkey sequence. Better macro board, and I would like to change from Vimeo to another service. Vimeo is okay, but there's a couple of quirks I don't like about Vimeo. Vimeo is nice and it distributes to different places. The problem, and it does keep an archive of everything you do. Try downloading your archive. Every file you have to go into individually and download individually. The website's designed in such a way it blocks automatic bulk downloading. Even if you go to the page, because you click on it and it comes up with a list, then you have to choose from the list which ones you want to download, and you've got to go through that for every single item. So things like down them all and some other, if you're bulk downloaders, they will not work on that site. So I wouldn't mind changing that. I wouldn't mind going to, there's some other things we can do. I've been looking at possibly going straight to YouTube and just bypass them altogether. Been also looking at some self-hosting options, and if anybody has experience with that, with any of your self-hosted streaming, let me know. I want to look at those and see what you've done. And I'm definitely looking for recommendations there. Now, for the fun stuff. This thing here is nice and simple. I have just brought 2 more people into the process for training. One of them is a teenager, about 14 years old, and he's able to handle the whole system with no intervention. Some things I want to do going forward. Now that I've got this system somewhat stabilized, I want to do things like, I've got a new church building that we're doing. I'm working on the networking and some of the other capability on there. So we're looking at capabilities we want to incorporate there, looking at open source solutions. There are plenty of commercial solutions, but why? Why spend money? If you're running a church, you know that church budgets are unlimited. You can spend money as you see fit, and they don't care what you're doing. But just even though they may be that way, I prefer to be a little bit more judicial in my spending. So I'm looking at setting up a Plex media server. We're getting the whole building wired for all the different rooms so that we can have streams in there. I'm thinking for classes and all that we can have a media server where we can put the videos on there in advance. And by the way, if anybody has ever had to do videos in church, never, under any circumstance, use a live YouTube video. Always download it locally and use it, because I've had so many problems. One, especially now, you find YouTubes will just interrupt in the middle with an ad. 2, you can run into stuttering and other problems. You want to download everything. You can use YouTube Downloader or any of the other tools. Download it down there. Have it locally. So if they want a video for your class from YouTube, you download it, you put it on the media server, they can pull it up off there. I'm not pirating it, I'm not transferring it, I'm just buffering it so that they will have a good, uninterrupted use of it. Looking at doing a DJ radio server. Has anybody worked with one of those? If you work with... Okay, Jellyfin? Okay. I'll look into that one more. We're currently using Media Shout. Now, I am not bashing Media Shout at all. Media Shout is great for doing some video production and management for there. It's for doing your slideshows and your slides and your lyrics for all your things. But the things I don't like about it is it's a license that's locked to the machine, and it doesn't give me quite the flexibility to work with it in different places that I'd like to. Plus, it's a Windows package, not a Linux package. I have previously worked with OpenLP and OpenSong. I was looking at using one of those. I haven't used OpenLP in probably about 5 years, so I'm assuming it's improved a bit since then. Has anybody worked with other ones? Okay, but it's really nice to be able to integrate. Like I said, Media Shout has some nice features on there, but when I've been going through the feature list, it's got a whole boatload of features, and we use 10% of the features, which is what most people do with the package. And I just can't justify spending the money for something where we're only using a fraction of it. But that's not my call. That's the church board's call, right? I'm looking at setting up a Nextcloud server there. Currently, our church, like many places, are using the license. There is the nonprofit license that you can get from Google and from Microsoft for their Office suite and use that. We're currently using that. I'm just not beholden to letting somebody else have so much access and control over us. Plus, with both of them, it's usually, I know Google, every December, Google says at that point whether they're going to extend it for another year. And if I got told in December that I had to move everything to a new site, it's either you got to move it or you got to pay an arm and a leg. And so I'm looking to do a Nextcloud. I did a talk on Nextcloud last year, and I really love it. I think it's great for working with things. And it's, as you can see, it's integrated here. One of the features I didn't mention I use on Nextcloud here is, like I said, we want other people to be able to work with this here. So I've put together a nice, simple set of instructions on this is what you to do. If I could give any of you this set of instructions, have you sit down and you can do a live stream event for us. But I also wanted someplace to put that document. So I've got that document in Nextcloud so that if anybody needs it and they don't have a copy, they can pull it right there from Nextcloud. It's now shareable with everyone. Are there any other software that people are using at their church that they find really interesting, or something that would be a neat niche or service?
It's popular among a lot of streamers. They have an Android version of the software which actually will surpass any of the number of buttons that they have on their standards. And you can actually buy that software lifetime. Normally, if you want to go cheap, they end up charging monthly.
Okay.
But you can buy it lifetime and have all of your buttons in that as well.
Okay. Yeah.
For people that I know that pro presenters use. Oh, hey, I got a microphone. Hey, so a lot of churches use like Pro Presenter to their lyrics and stuff on the screen. There's a open source project called Free Show that does a lot of the same things as Pro Presenter. It even does NDI, so you could have a separate laptop on the network that's doing the slides or whatever, and have someone do the songs on that. And in OBS, you can use it as an NDI source and switch to.
Oh, it does support NDI.
Yeah, it has
nice
native in it, just like Pro Presenter does. So you can do the full open source on that. And
yeah, because that was one of the things I thought was missing from OpenLP was the fact that it didn't have the NDI source at that time.
Yeah, so you can do the NDI out, and I think you might even be able to do an NDI in on it if you wanted to put words over video.
Okay.
But I haven't tried that.
I'll look into that.
And it's also available on Linux, Mac, and Windows. So I know you didn't want to mention either of those other operating systems, but
I don't mind mentioning inferior operating systems.
Use some of those, but the program works on the multi-platform, I should just say.
Okay. Yeah, that's one key thing I try to keep in mind with anything. The idea of simplicity. Any software that I choose for the church, I prefer to have something that runs on multiple platforms. OBS, runs on just about everything. I want to go with things that are runs on multiple platforms, because there are people, you'll find a lot of your musical people in church are very much into Macs. For some reason, they're all into Macs. I've got other people that I know are diehard PC users. So if you have the same software that you can run on multiple platforms, that is the key thing to keep in mind. Open source and free is good, but the fact that they can run it on there and I'm not forcing them to use a particular thing is wonderful.
I've been using QLC Plus, which is for doing DMX. And what I use that for is for, like in our kids' check-in station, I've got LED tape and a DMX decoder, and they can go and change it for whatever season it is to make the signage, or the art piece that's behind them, color match to the season that it is. So QLC Plus is a great open source piece of software.
Okay. One thing I forgot to show you guys. Hold on, let me get out of the presentation. By the way, Christ Our Hope is my church, in case you were wondering why you see that all over the place. Our screen itself looks like this here. Again, these are the different screens here where you can, scenes that you can select. And you can do it directly from here, but by putting hotkeys on them and tying them into the macro pad, makes it easier for a person to work with. Because otherwise, I don't know if you've ever accidentally hit the wrong thing in the middle of a presentation. So we have the different there. We've got the different sources there. Oops. Let's see if I've got the other ones. So there is an example of the screen with the QR code on there. So we have the church logo here. Now this QR code itself is stored as a graphic on the drive and it's in one of my Nextcloud sync folders. So I mentioned that I updated at home. I don't do anything to it when I get to the church, because as soon as I log into the machine, it syncs from Nextcloud. It pulls down the current logo. So for instance, tonight, I'm not going to be there for services on Sunday. I've probably have an email in my inbox that I haven't dealt with yet, where they sent me the QR code. I will generate, or sent me the URL. I will generate the QR code, put it on the Nextcloud. The guy will log in. It will automatically sync. He'll pull it up. He doesn't have to do anything. And one of the things to make sure that it did work is I have scanned the QR code before services and make sure it's there. They have a little pre-check list that they are supposed to go through to make sure everything is working. If I can find the right one. Where is it? There we go. We have... So here is a typical view of the video with the QR code. Again, the QR code's in the bottom there. We added our logo on the top. And that would be the normal video scene. What we will do during services is when it first starts, they're getting... When they first start the live stream, they will be seeing this there, which shows QR code with that. Then as we go through, we'll transition into the point where they're singing. It'll go to a portion like that where it has the QR code with the video overlaid. And then after we've showed enough that I got sick of seeing the QR code on screen, we go to a simple view like that. So as far as people are going, they're seeing something nice and simple. And then at the very end, we have a logo screen like that, so we use that to clean it out, so just for the end. But in the hotkeys, you can see setups here. All you do is each one of the views, as you set them up, it'll go switch to scene. You set up a key. Pick a weird key, and it doesn't matter how awkward it is to type. Just pick a weird key combination. And then when you're programming your macro button, it's doing the real weird combination. So it doesn't matter what the combination is. You want to keep it, again, you want to keep it simple. You don't want people sitting there trying to figure out and don't want to ask questions. Yeah.
On the macro button, what's the software you use to program the macro button?
I use the software. Like I said, when I bought this button, when I bought this here, it came with, they gave you a link to download a Windows package, and the Windows package is horrible. Matter of fact, the Windows package for this, I almost just gave up on it with the Windows package. You have to program one button at a time. There's no way to save anything. There's no way to tell what's in there. You have to just reload the whole thing every time. Instead, there is this software. So apparently these are all based off of a CH57X. So if you search for a CH57X-keyboard-tool, it's on GitHub there. You basically have a config file that you put all the stuff in there, and then it uploads all of them to there, nice and easy. So it's a real simple way of doing it, and it works. The only thing is you have to have root access when you actually program the device, because on Linux, it doesn't want you to write stuff to the device without it being authorized. So keep it simple.
That also keeps your people from overriding it too.
Yep. Because you can't program it without the software. Well, you could get one of the other softwares, but most of you want something people can't mess with. I've had problems running sound at the church. I've had problems where kids decided, oh, there's all these nice little buttons on here. Sorry, I'm not picking on the kids or anything. They're being kids. I would have done the same thing at their age too. But one of the things we solved that on the soundboard by we actually save configurations and load configurations, and it makes it easier because it's programmable sliders. So I wanted to do something that simple on this side here. Again, this is not advanced stuff. It's simple stuff, but it was taking a problem that we had and finding a way using open source to do a solution at no cost that does everything we need to do, and it's in a simple to use fashion that we can train people. I had one person that I went through less than an hour of training, and they were ready to run on their own. So it was great. Yeah.
How did you deal with when you're changing the OS to Linux, Fedora? Did you get any pushback of like, well, other people need to be able to administrate this? How do you handle updates and stuff like that related to that? Second part, how do you get audio into your OBS?
Okay, so the first part, I received a lot of resistance for those exact same reasons. I solved that initially by asking permission, can I set it up dual boot? So that way, if it doesn't work, we can roll back. So we took the same machine, I partitioned it down, I resized the Windows partition down, redid everything, got it up and running, and booted on the Linux side. Everything was running smoothly. After about 6 months, we originally tried one version of Linux that did not quite work because it was putting everything in packages that did not work. Do not ever run OBS in a package. I don't care how much somebody tries to convince you, OBS does not run well in a package. If you put it either in Snap or Flatpak or anything like that, it requires so much demand of your resources that you end up getting choppy video, cutoffs, and it just random reboots. So that once they were confident that it was working and that they had other people besides me that could work it, I had to redo it again to a new version of Linux, and so they allowed me to just wipe Windows off completely, and they were happy with it, so we were good. Your second question was how to get the audio in. Well, as I showed you in my setup here, we were trying to get something that was going in and out of the building all the time, so I couldn't do hardwiring. I bought these little, you can't see it in the picture here, but taped to the back of this laptop, there is a little square box with a couple of antennas on it. I have it has a companion box that's plugged into the back of the soundboard. So we took one of the outputs on there, plug it in there, and now I have it's not quite Bluetooth, but a wireless link between the two, but it's one of those zero latency ones. And we use that for feeding it in. It comes into the audio port. It works great, and it's great sound all the way through. All right.
Yeah, just wanted to second your not using a package for OBS, because I ran into a problem because in my setup, I have a desktop and I have a Blackmagic capture card, and for whatever reason, the flat pack version of OBS does not see like the driver for that capture card. So it doesn't show up. I can't get the video in. So I had to either do the one from the repo or use like the PPA one or Snap or whatever. But for some reason, Flatpak just doesn't see the driver.
Oh, for another win for Linux on things with the factor drivers and all. When I first was splitting this out to a separate machine, there was a specific sound card processor that they had proprietary drivers and everything. And the drivers, we couldn't get updated drivers on Windows and everything. And we could not, I mean, it worked, and that I think was part of our problems. I redid the machine as Linux, and Linux goes, oh, I know this device. Here, let me let you use it. And it started working, and it worked far better than it ever did on the Windows side, simply because using just what Linux provided on there. So as far as driver support, I'm finding that Linux has got far better driver support than I'm finding on Windows. Just try setting up a printer on Windows. All right. Anyone else? All right. If you see me, like I said, I am in the process of with a new church that we're building. Oops, let me go back here. There's a new church my church is building in the Wake Forest area. We're setting up. We're looking at all the different technology we're doing in there. We're trying to see what we can do. If you have ideas, suggestions, or want to ask questions, there's my information. I'll be more than glad to try to answer everything. I will probably put a copy of this presentation up on my website that you have that's listed there. I did that for last year, and honestly, last year is why I came back this year, is because we started having the side discussions, and it seems a lot of people need to do these things. The key thing is keep it simple. If you make it complicated, you support it. If you make it simple, I don't have to worry about things this Sunday. It's simple. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.